Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Realtors Roundtable. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting my good friend, my brother, well-known criminal and immigration attorney, Raed Mourad of Mourad Law. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. Long overdue. So, when I think of having somebody on this podcast, I always think of what I think when I think of this person. So when I think, one of the things that come to my mind when I think of Raed Mourad, obviously Raed Mourad, I'm going to call you Ro because that's what we know you as.
Right, of course.
So first thing I think of is when, obviously we've been best friends since the 6th grade and football and a lot of memories. But one thing that really sticks out to me is your outlook on life and your outlook on people. So when I think of you, I think when I chose the direction not to go the route most traveled, go to high school, graduate, go to college, graduate, get a master's, or just get a bachelor's, then go to get your, furthering your education, this and that. And I went a little different.
Right.
And I remember everyone would come up to me and say like, hey man, do this, don't do that, do this. Everybody. And they all want your best interest because it was the road less traveled at that point.
That's what everyone was doing.
Everybody. So it's kind of like people would look around like, but you were the only person who always used to say to me and like to others like, hey, don't worry about it. Nick's got it. He's got it. He's got it under control. He might not have a plan right now, but he's got it. If anyone's got it, he's got it. Just don't worry about it. And I think everybody, when they're going through an uncertain time, needs someone to say, hey, this person's got it. So when I think of you, that's what I think. So, and I know that mindset, that, the way you think, the way you believe in other people, whether it's your friends, your clients, really, and we'll dive into a lot of it today, really is the reason why you're as successful as you are.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I like to credit just the ability to empathize,
Mm-hmm.
right? Putting yourself in someone else's shoes. With your situation, it's a little different because I've watched you. You were first my friend. You were then my football captain. You were always someone, I looked up to. I've always seen you have it in control in any situation. And one thing about you is you're never really uncertain about your decisions. You may not know what you're going to do, but you're going to do it when you're going to do it. So, I remember when we were going through that, when you were deciding what you wanted to do with your life, you were trying different things. I remember you were, I think, with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office with the Reserve.
I was thinking of being a sheriff or a cop.
Yeah. And I remember your family was frantic about, no, you got to go to school. I think you started at Henry Ford for a bit too. Everybody was so nervous about what are we going to do about NAMI, what are we going to do about NAMI. But just in knowing you, I always knew you were going to be successful, and I didn't think school was for you. I knew you as a people's person. I knew you as a hustler. I knew you as someone who was always kind of sure and certain of how they move. You were always very certain with your decisions, and you always stuck through. You made decisions fast, and you changed them slow. So I always knew you were going to be, good. But I like the outlook of, seeing the best in people, giving people the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes you get taken advantage of, and that's what comes with it. So yes, in a sense, I do think that it's helped me kind of build my brand, whether it's, doing the freebies or going the extra mile when it's not expected. I think that helped me a lot, but also it hurts in a sense too. You have less family time, you have less free time, you have a lot more on your plate, and it's on you to kind of navigate, well, hey, I deserve to, be taken care of as well, but also I'm never going to be the type of person who sees someone in need and not do everything I can to help them.
100%. But I think we learn as we get in our careers to delegate accordingly, to have a team around us. So we do have more family time. We do get to enjoy whatever it is, no matter what it is, whether it's taking time off, going on vacation, going home early. I think that's very important. It's hard when you first start, and I think we're both in the first phase of our career, but that's very important. Going back to what you said about making a quick decision, I think a lot of it has to do with kind of trusting your gut. Because if you ask 5 people, when we were showing a house and 5 people are making a decision, I always ask, who's the main decision maker? Because if you're going to have to get a unanimous 5-person vote on a house, you're never going to find a house. So just let's not even look.
Right.
I think you got to trust your gut. You know what's best. You need to sit down, reflect, reflect on the pros, the cons, and make a decision. That's it.
Right.
Sure, you want to ask people, but be specific on who you're getting advice from. Be specific on who you're asking. And when you make your decision, make it. That's it. You're confident in it. And if you reflected and trusted your gut, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's another thing. We're lucky that the circle of the people that we ask are all like-minded individuals, family-oriented people who work hard, people who don't take advantage of anybody, and probably some of the most generous people I know, and genuine.
100%.
So we're lucky, we have that in our group text. We can have a hard decision, go to Ali B's house, a couple of the guys have a conversation, and we have a collective, decision on what we're gonna, what the next move is. We're lucky. We're blessed. I don't think a lot of people have that.
They do, but I think a lot of people are very open to who they take advice from. So I was reflecting the other day, and I'm a very big college football fan.
Right.
When Peyton Manning was playing, I was the biggest Peyton Manning fan.
Oregon.
So,
you're a huge Oregon fan, remember?
I love Oregon.
Who was that running back?
LaMichael James.
LaMichael James. Oh
yeah,
my God.
he used to play with NCAA. Yep. So when it comes to, I was watching football, and at Texas, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning's nephew, is the backup quarterback. He went into the game because the first string quarterback got injured, and he scored 5 touchdowns. And this guy, in the day and age of college football players getting paid,
right,
he can leave today and make $1 million a year tomorrow as an 18-year-old. Tomorrow. He could probably take him to the playoff, and he's got it. And they asked his family, hey, he scored 5 touchdowns. I think he should take over that quarterback. He should now be in the starting role. And they said, nope, he shouldn't. The guy got injured. This is his family. He said the guy got injured, and he will play his role. He'll stay at Texas. He'll wait his turn. In a day and age of TikTok, where you have no attention span, you got no patience, in a day and age where if you don't like what you're doing as a college football player, you're not get paid. You can transfer, go to another school, and you start.
Right.
Just quit. You quit, basically.
It's the day of clout and attention, man.
It's the day of clout and attention. And I'm thinking, what a life lesson. And I was telling my wife, Reem, what a life lesson that look who he takes advice from. He takes advice from Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, millionaires,
right,
NFL players,
right,
successful people, winners. His dad, who was the third brother. His grandfather, who was, they have the mindset.
right.
Forget about how much money they have, what they do. They have the mindset.
Right.
Who is he listening to? So I think that helps when you're making decisions. Who are you asking?
Yeah.
Are you asking someone who doesn't make good decisions? Are you asking someone who makes the right decisions themselves? So I think it has a lot to do with it.
And it's a hard place to navigate, because you may be close to somebody who may not be in the best position to offer advice. For example, if somebody's going to buy a house, and it's, you meet this client, they say, I want 1, 2, 3 in this house. You see a house, it has 1, 2, 3, everything's perfect. And then you get to, maybe it's their spouse, maybe it's their parents, maybe it's
Usually it's the dad.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And who's going to come in and, give them advice on, different issues.
Right.
And now it's like, well, hold on, I thought you were here for 1, 2, 3. Well, I am, but so-and-so thinks this, and so, and there goes your deal.
100%.
And I can relate that too in work. We may have
because they're all lawyers.
Yeah, and a lot of people make the mistake of sharing their business with everybody.
Yeah.
And especially, if you're, charged with a criminal offense or something along those lines, that's not something you want to take everyone's opinion on. Because, you're going to come and you're going to think that you're armed with the solution to this problem, and, you might hurt yourself doing so. I've seen people in court, thank God not my clients, but try to represent themselves.
Terrible.
Horrible.
Terrible.
I think there's a quote, the person who represents themselves has a fool for a client. Putting yourself in that position just from taking bad advice. Maybe a buddy told you, oh, hey, I've been through this situation. All you have to do is 1, 2, 3. Before you know it, you're cooked.
You are cooked.
Yeah, you're cooked because you didn't do what you were supposed to do because you took advice from the wrong person.
100%.
Again, it all goes back to how lucky we are. But not only are we lucky, I think we're in a position to make mistakes, and we're lucky enough to be surrounded by a group of people who doesn't judge, and we can all talk about it and learn from each other's experiences.
100%.
And if you're not around people who are successful
And better than you.
most importantly, you're not going to get that.
100%.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're
in the wrong room.
Absolutely, man.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, going back to after high school, where we used to hang out every day from football to everything, You went
Take me to Ramshorn, man.
Ramshorn was the best before the games. Remember?
Yeah, man.
Your dad used to take us before our games every Thursday to a different restaurant, and we were 1-8. We were 1-8, and we worked all summer, but we lost every game by like 3 points or less.
Right.
And I said to your dad, I'm going to have a much better year this year. I said, it was, we played a lot better. He said, no, it was bad. He said, it was real bad.
He had no idea what football even was, too, at the time, but he knew we weren't doing well.
Yeah. Not like back, it was real bad. 1-8. I don't know what I was thinking. But tell us about the transition from going from Dearborn Heights, where you are the most Dearborn Heights person I've ever met. If you could live on or around Dock Stater or that intersection where Ramshorn used to be, and you could never leave for the rest of your life. I don't think you will ever leave.
I won't.
How was that transition?
It was tough.
To East Lansing, because you went to Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. So, like you said, I went from a school where, we had a few hundred people. I knew everyone. I knew all the teachers. Everybody knew, and I had great relationships with everyone. I was a student athlete. My sister was a student athlete. We were very, integrated in that community. And then, I'll never forget, you were with me. We were in Cancun, spring break, and I found out I got into Michigan State. And, that's when life changed. I think that's when I really became a man. I remember I was having, I think, lunch with my dad, and I'd already gotten into college, but I hadn't gone yet. And I was just talking to him about the fact that, like, I'm going to miss football season. I'm going to miss my friends. Like, this is all I've known my whole life. And he told me, the best years are yet to come. So I got out there. I'm on a college campus with 50,000 different people. I don't know anybody. I was supposed to have a roommate. The roommate never showed up.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I was in a dorm room.
Wasn't he a foreign exchange student?
Foreign exchange
student. That was a joke in the group chat for a long time. You're supposed to have a roommate. We're expecting this roommate. He's going to FaceTime us. The guy never showed.
Never showed. So, yeah. Interestingly enough, I ended up, we connected with a group of guys in Dearborn that were at Michigan State. So, I went to Michigan State, and most of my friends were other people from Dearborn. But it took a while, man. I'd say it took at least 1 or 2 years to fully transition, integrate with a new community. And, things are different. Yeah. I've never lived outside of Dearborn really in my life.
We have everything we need here.
Yeah, I mean,
our friends, our family, we're used to everything. Everyone knows everybody. It's a little town.
And you know what it is? I didn't even realize I was different.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize at the time, like, being a Arab Muslim male, tall, dark skin with facial hair, I'm gonna stand out a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to that.
Right.
My mom went to high school here too, so it's not like I'm from the most traditional household either.
Yeah.
But I went out there, and it made me more proud of who I am and where we come from.
I hear that a lot.
Oh my God, so much more. And but yeah, I would say it took me about 2 years to kind of get integrated. I got integrated with like the criminal justice community out there, and I kind of started working on career stuff. It was quite the transition, but I would say after about 2 years, it clicked in, and I think going to Michigan State was the best thing I ever did. Best decision I've ever made.
Did you know from the minute you went to Michigan State that you were going to become a lawyer?
Not really. So it's funny because I remember recently going through some of my old stuff, and I found something in the that I wrote when I was in the second grade, that I want to be a lawyer, I want to drive a cool car, and I want to be in the NBA.
That's so funny.
I mean, 2 of the 3 so far. I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, well, you still got a shot at the NBA. You keep working out.
I'm gonna try my best. But so I think I always wanted to be a lawyer deep down, but when I got to Michigan State, I majored in criminal justice. So I didn't know where I wanted to go. In my head, I was like, maybe I can be like an FBI agent and kick down doors. Yeah. And like do cool stuff like that. But, I actually had the benefit of interning in DC for a summer. I don't know if you remember that when I was in DC. Yeah. And I kind of got a taste of what, government work would be, or, working that mission, how it would come about. And I wasn't about it. And, a couple different things came into, play, but I'm not really good at, playing the politics and getting to know this person to get to know this person when secretly I'm just trying to get this position the whole time. That's not my style.
Yeah. You're very straight up.
Yeah.
Just honest.
Right. So, I just realized it wasn't for me quick. I got back, and I said, I have to go to law school.
What year was this?
This would have been after my junior year in undergrad, so going into my senior year.
Oh wow! So 3 years into
Yeah.
you, then you think you're gonna be a lawyer?
I mean, I got to law school and I didn't know what field of law I wanted to practice.
Okay.
So I just knew that I had to put one foot in front of the other and keep climbing this ladder of, success or, what I want to be, and, I want to make my mom proud. So, I would say throughout my senior year, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew lawyers that I knew, but I didn't really know much about it. I wanted to just keep improving. So, took the LSAT right after that, my junior year.
Yeah.
And, got into Michigan State law, and the rest was history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Question: when did you know you wanted to go into the law? You want to go? You were in now.
Good question. So when I started applying for jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So every
So
summer.
you went through law school not knowing what you wanted to do.
I mean, yeah.
Did you have an idea?
I knew that I wanted to do some criminal work.
Yeah.
And I did the immigration clinic, and in law school, and I really enjoyed that, but I wasn't for certain. I was under the impression that, I was going to graduate law school and like a bigwig lawyer was going to take me under his wing or her wing and show me the ropes. And eventually I would start my own practice and take off.
Didn't you get an offer like that?
I got some offers, but they were kind of funny. I'll tell you about them. So I graduated.
We talked about one in my garage, right?
We did. We talked about, I think, all in your garage.
Okay.
You were actually a part of every one of these discussions. But so I, finished law school, take the bar, pass the bar on the first try, and, I want to start applying for jobs. So, a lot of times in law school, the place that you interned is usually the place that ends up hiring you,
Right.
or at least somewhere in that field. Every summer, I would intern at 36th District Court with the Public Defender's Office.
Yeah.
And I mean, to tell you, I fell in love with being a criminal defense attorney. It's because of my time at, 36th District Court.
Yeah.
And, working for the Misdemeanor and Felony Defender's Office. It's still, I'm still doing work there. I don't think I'll ever stop, no matter what anybody tells me, no matter how busy I get. But I just remember feeling like, no way, this is actually like work. Like, this is so fun.
The opposite
I'm going to
of what
get
you
paid
felt
for
when
this.
you were in D.C.
Wow. And I never put that into perspective.
Yeah.
But absolutely.
Because that's what I was thinking when you're saying about D.C. Because like you don't want to work doing something that you're not in love with.
Right.
You want to just love it.
Right.
Like me, I would do what I'm doing for free. And I've mentioned that probably 10 times. I would do it for free. I would do it for free.
I believe you.
Yeah.
And it's who you are.
Yeah.
And, I really believe, being a lawyer is who I am. Being a helper, being a protector. And the best way for me to do that is through the practice of law. But, when I got into the job market, I always knew that, I wanted to be in the criminal field, but I was applying for everywhere. I applied to, you name it, I applied there. I came back with 3 offers. One for $40,000, one for $55,000, and my highest offer was $62,000. So
How did you feel when you got those offers?
man, I was devastated. $40,000, I could go work at, anywhere.
How much would it have costed an average person to go to Michigan State Law and finish?
I mean, let's say not counting undergrad, you're over 6 figures in that, man.
Well, what about including undergrads?
I would say close to 200,000.
200,000.
Yeah, if not more. It's a big investment. I have student loans, right? What am I going to do with $40,000 a year? I can't afford to pay my loans. I can't afford to live. I can't afford to move. I couldn't afford to do anything. But to be honest, when I got that offer, I knew it wasn't even a consideration. The hardest offer was the $62,000 one, which, thank God. I don't know if you remember this, but it was me, you, and at the time, you had just introduced me to Hamid Dekroop,
Yeah.
one of my favorite lawyers. And I remember we were sitting at Lava, and I was like, well, Hamid, I'm thinking about taking this offer. What do you think? And I didn't even know him that well. And he told me, don't you dare. And I didn't get why. And he said, okay, people know you, right? I said, yeah. I said, he's like, you think you can probably bring in at least 1 case a month? I said, yeah. He said, what if you say you can bring in 1 case for $5,000 a month? That's something you can do, right? I said, yeah, I think so. He said, okay. So that's 1 case a month. You really think of all the people and everything you do, you're only going to really be able to bring in 1 case a month? And it hit me, you know. So I rejected the offer. I asked 36th District Court if I could, kind of stay on.
Yeah.
And at the time, we it was, as a public defender job, you don't get paid the most, but it was just, it's the best people to be around, best work to be around. I have, the best supervisor there ever. And we've really just been locked in ever since. And till this day, it's 5 years in and I'm busier than ever. I still dedicate a day that, I do work on.
Fridays.
Fridays.
No lunch on Fridays.
You'll catch me at 36th District Court.
Which I think your only time we've ever argue is 2 times. Either you charge someone 50% off because there's a situation but you implemented things in a system, where the system makes the decision, not you. Because if you made the decision, everything would be pro bono.
Yeah.
Everything would be pro bono.
Yeah.
So
my dream.
Yeah, which is, it shows your character. But at the end of the day, you have a business, you have pay, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's an operation.
I just got married. I have a lovely wife.
You just got married. You have a lovely wife.
Amazing wife.
Yes. So amazing. So my question was, how are you going to leave 36? You told me I'm never going to leave.
I'm not going to leave.
I'm never going to leave
Nope.
36.
Until it gets to the point where it's like, hey, you're only really here once a week. We can't really, have that around. That'd be a different conversation. That's something I'd respect. But if they're letting me stay, I'm staying.
Yeah.
And I'm fighting.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, it's a different level of rewarding when you're helping somebody who, one, doesn't have the means to get the representation to help himself. But 2, a lot of the times there's a stigma where, if you get an appointed attorney, they're not going to do their job or they don't care about you. And then they get me or someone from my office and we're just, high level, doing what we have to do, putting our heart into it. And, that resonates with people. And you kind of see it come full circle and, you do great work and, it keeps coming and God keeps blessing you.
100%. On behalf of the people who don't get to thank you, because a lot of times I know you do things as a public defender, which if you do get paid, I think it's a fraction of what I'm not sure how your pay scale goes, but for most people, they don't pay for it. It's pro bono.
Right.
So thank you on behalf of everybody, because I know a lot of times you don't get thanked.
For sure. And, unfortunately, it's a lot of the times people are so confused with the legal system because it's so confusing. There are, words, phrases, dollar amounts, sometimes that you don't even have to pay. It just, a lot of it for a layperson isn't going to make sense. If you've never been in trouble and you get in trouble and you are just going through the process, you're not going to know what's going on unless your attorney is sitting there talking you through and walking you through everything. And even then you're going to have follow-up questions. You're going to want to, you're going to want, your lawyer's attention to kind of walk you through the process. And, I think with the defender's office, we do a great job at it. But you can't give somebody a legal education in one day.
Yes.
And a lot of people just don't really understand the gravity of what's going on,
And the second thing that we ever argued about was, I'd say, Ro, you are spending X amount of time here at 36. Do you think you're ever going to leave? You told me no.
Yeah.
No, I won't do it. I love what I do. I love helping these people. I love changing their lives. Without us, they're really at a disadvantage. Which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, not only just me. I mean, I'm in a system there where like there's so many other attorneys who do such a good job too.
Yeah.
With that office, again, I have like the best supervisor ever, and I really learned from her. You know, and her name is Joyce Reasonova. I have to give her some shout outs, but she taught me everything.
Really?
I'm watching her just fighting and navigating courtrooms and. Building relationships with judges, it taught me everything. So I'm lucky enough that I got to practice and learn in a Detroit courtroom, because I'm going to be honest with you, from what I've seen, Detroit attorneys fight the hardest, really. And don't get me wrong, I love our, attorneys elsewhere, but, the level of fight, the level of just ambition in court that I've seen just practicing outside of 36th District, it's different than anywhere, and I think I'm lucky enough to have been afforded the opportunity to come up there, because I'm able to take that, and bring it to our community and help everyone I can.
Yes. And Mourad Law is part of our community. Mourad Law, you're growing a business, and it's more like, you start by yourself, and maybe you have an assistant, but I know you have a system now. You have just getting into a big business. How is it growing that business? How has that process been so far?
Yeah. Learning hurdles, definitely. But I really, if I could start from scratch, I wouldn't change anything.
Yes.
We're blessed. We have a great team. I have a great associate, Muhammad Ali Hamoud.
Love that guy.
He does a great job, man. He's so positive. He puts his heart into his work. But I remember when it was me and, when it was just me at first.
Yeah.
And then I brought on like an intern. And then I realized I needed an assistant. And then I left the Park Lane Tower building and I, bought my own building.
Yeah.
And then we have a paralegal, an assistant, an associate attorney. And we're probably going to be growing in 2025
or 2024
or 2024.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting. And I've learned that, being a lawyer is one thing, but being a business owner is another thing. And then being a business manager is another thing.
Three completely different
really,
things.
It is. I always thought like, I'm best in court. Just keep me in court. Let me, I want to fight the prosecutor. I want to argue with the judge. I want to do what I have to do for my clients in court. But there's a lot more that goes to the practice of law. There's a lot of preparation. If you're writing a motion, you're staying up days at a time, getting that out of the way. If you've got trial coming up, which is the most fun.
Yeah.
You get in a trial prep mode. You're writing out your questions. Me and my associate will be talking. We'll be up all night, chugging monster drinks, thinking about different avenues to attack, rolling up the sleeves, working that at night. I mean, that's when I really enjoy being a lawyer the most. But there's just so much more to it. And if you're not growing the right way, people will start feeling neglected. Or your cases will feel neglected, and I can't have that. I won't have that.
Which, for you being as busy as you are, I've never heard somebody say that, which is very hard to do. It's very hard to keep the reputation where no one says like, man, he don't answer his phone, he's behind, this, that. But it's all about having the systems. It's all about having the systems.
It's all about the system.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we invest a lot of money in our systems. And for a law firm, I'm not gonna say my overhead on here, but we have a very high overhead. And that's because we're invested in these systems. That's because we're able to have mechanisms that are automating a lot of processes. Making sure all the forms are up to date, making sure there's a high-end case management system tracking every step of the case. Giving clients text updates. These are all things that people want. You never want to walk into your lawyer's office, walk out, and not know where you're at in your case. That's
100%.
the worst thing ever.
100%.
And like, I've seen it happen to other people in other situations. And like, I remember just getting into the practice of law. I'll never be this attorney. I'll never be this attorney. And I understand why that may have happened, but you got to pay your business. You can't just go off and showboat and have a big payday and, go shopping every weekend and travel all you want without taking care of home first,
100%.
Which is the business.
100%. So, two things I want to go off of based on what you just said. The first thing is people think like, hey, I just paid Raed X amount of dollars. Man, that's how much someone makes it. But what they don't realize is, sure, it's a large amount, whatever the fee may be.
Right.
But this is a business. For you to be able to provide the service you do, there's a chain of command. Okay. There's a business director you have. There's an admin. There's a second admin. There's a paralegal. There's an associate. There's
advisors,
there's system. There's advisors. There's a lot. And not everybody. And I think us as a community are getting a lot better as growing big businesses that are organized. That are system. We have systems. We're educated. So I think that really helps a lot.
Yeah, and I think our generation is doing a better job at kind of breaking through that barrier of like, okay, hey, no, I need an advisor.
Yeah.
I need a coach. You've been telling me to get a legal coach, I think, forever. Yeah. Every time we sit, we strategize.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, I'm sure your podcast viewers don't know, is how many Sunday nights we've met. In
the basement of your office.
Guys going to my office basement, drawing up our business plans, writing up our goals.
October's coming up, so it's going to start again.
And what's crazy, and it's so funny because I remember the first time we sat down and did this, and you told me, I want you to look back at your goals right now and just tell me where you're at. And it was the craziest thing ever because I hadn't looked at the paper in a year. And then I just remember looking at it and yep. And it was like, I remember writing it at the time thinking it was so far-fetched.
Yeah.
And you were challenging me to like, why are your goals small? Make your goals bigger. Why do you only want to make this amount of money? Why not that amount of money? And you told me something that stuck with me to this day is you got to write it down.
Yeah.
You got to write it down and really, not only are you manifesting it, but, you're keeping it, in front of your face, and there's just an empty checkbox that you have to check off. And it starts to bother you if you're not getting it checked off, and it keeps you organized, it keeps you motivated, keeps you diligent. And, I learned that from these meetings that
Yeah.
we did, because we're a part of this generation that wants to put our heads together, be innovative, grow in different ways, do things differently, because it's so easy to kind of just get lazy.
It really is.
Right?
It really is.
Run a business by, who's calling today? Answer the phone. So how am I going to serve this person?
That's how most businesses are ran.
Horrible.
But when you want to be high level, like your firm is, you can't be like that.
No.
You have to learn from this person, learn from that person, learn from that person. And the second thing I wanted to mention earlier is you learn from others' mistakes. So sometimes you learn from someone who's doing good, and that's great. But also you say, man, this person could have did 1, 2, 3 better.
Right.
If this situation ever happened to me, if this type of deal or this type of transaction or running my business this way, I think I would adjust it by saying, doing 1, 2, 3. And I think that's very important.
How long did it take you to grasp that concept?
I think I've been a very observant from a very young age. So I don't know. I think, to be honest, I was very young to the point where I would be at Lava and I would observe so much how this person dealt with the health department, how this person dealt with a rush, how one customer communicated with a different customer,
right.
How this owner communicated with this vendor, how this vendor communicated with the manager. And I'd watch and I'd say, like, got it. And my mom always told me, take the good and leave the bad. If there's something you see in someone, take the good, learn
right.
from that. But if someone does something, you say, man, I think they could have done this better. It's also good to leave the bad as well.
Right.
So I think that's very important. I think you got to observe.
And, it's interesting that you say that, because how often are we seeing it today where people are acting sporadically, where they're not taking that moment to just kind of sit, observe, watch what's going on, then, move on it, then take an action item or then make a statement. A lot of we're in such a society now where just go, talk. And it goes back to the TikTok and the cloud and, what's the real purpose here? I think you're on a clear mission. I'm on a clear mission. And when I'm talking to people, like, that's what I'm trying to determine, what's your mission? Where are you trying to go? And in talking to me, what is your goal with this conversation? And that's just really, it takes just being observant.
100%. 100%.
I asked you because it took me a while to kind of grasp that concept, right? And it's reading people, and, thank God, because that's what I do for a living. But, it definitely took me a while to, read people, try and figure people out and ask myself the right questions, because we go back to just always giving people the benefit of the doubt and being so nice and pleasant to everyone. You're not asking yourselves the right questions. Am I being taken advantage of in any way? Is there a way that this could resolve better? What am I telling this prosecutor that maybe I could be telling them to get something better, for example? Or what am I arguing in front of this judge that isn't resonating well with them? It's the ability to observe. And I think
observe and reflect.
That's the hardest part.
100%.
That's the hardest
observe,
part.
Reflect. Okay, if this happens, what's the reaction? If that happens, what's the reaction? And then, like you said, make a quick decision, and that's it.
Right.
Which is key.
But you're there because of, I think, your preparation. You and I have talked about this so many times, is you don't go to any meeting unprepared.
Never.
You don't go to any listing appointment unprepared. You don't go to any professional event unprepared. You know what you're going to say. You know what you're going to talk about. You know how you're going to deal with your objections, because you're taking that time, and that goes to not being lazy, and that goes to waking up early, and that goes to writing things down.
I think the key is waking up early, because when you wake up early, you can set 7 to 9 a.m. If I get to the office at 7, which is my goal every day, if I get there at 7, no one's going to call before 8:30. So if I know I have a meeting or a big listing appointment or a small listing appointment or something I need to prepare for, and I need to know what I'm talking about to provide value, I get there early so I can write it down, like you said, and understand, reflect what's going to happen if this comes up, if that comes up, and you got to be prepared. Abe Faraj says, "Poor
People's banker."
The people's banker.
Yes,
poor preparation prevents poor performance. No, proper preparation prevents poor performance. And Mike Phillips mentioned that one time. Abe Faraj, that's a great one. It really is. If how you prepare is how you care.
Every time.
It's 100%.
Every time. And, especially in the field of law, clients can see that. Clients know if you're aware.
100%.
I remember, my associate had a case that came in, and I remember when the client came in and my associate wasn't ready to talk to him yet. So I went over there and we were just talking about that client's case. And he looked at me, he's like, "Man, you know this whole case." I said, "Absolutely. we've prepped this case. We've studied every angle of it. Of course I know this case.
Yeah.
Am I going to be in court on that case? No, that's, my associate's case. But that's just kind of how we're doing things. We're a team, we're preparing, and you have to. What if, he's sick that day? I have to be ready.
100%.
And that's just the name of the game. And that people see that. And when people see that, people want to work with you. And when people want to work with you, alhamdulillah, you're able to, serve your community the best of your ability.
100%. And people see it because you succeed. And if you are in a situation where you're unprepared, you deal with very serious things. Very serious things. And if you're not prepared,
big problem.
It's a big problem.
It's not fair. It's not fair to your client.
It's really not.
It's not fair to anyone.
I think of that all the time. And real estate, it's very important. It is. It's most of the time their biggest assets, whether it's a home or these people have worked their whole life to accumulate this asset and it's grown in value to X amount. And when I see it's listed or being advertised, I feel bad. I'm getting to the point. I don't get mad anymore. I say, man,
right.
That's unfortunate.
Right.
You know what I mean? You should have prepared better. You should have marketed it better.
Right.
Not to say that we're better than anybody, but
No.
this is someone's life.
You're not going to post iPhone pictures on a listing.
Crazy the things you see. Whether it's the caption or the way they communicate, not answering their phone. And it's like, this is crazy.
I remember when we closed on my first investment property a couple years back. And, it was time. I think I was looking to either sell it or I was looking to rent it out. And I remember, telling you about it. And before I knew it, it was crazy. Within the hour, the, grass was done. The backyard was done. The house was improved. I mean, this was all in the same day. And you had these pictures taken. I mean, some of the nicest photos I've ever seen. And
you said, hold on,
so
I think I'm going to buy it back.
Yeah. I was, oh my God. So and because you've just been doing that so much and preparing so much, that probably didn't mean anything to you. That's just another, voice note in your day or a reminder on your, phone. But, to me, when I saw that, I said, whoa, no, hold on. This is next level stuff. This is high end stuff.
That next level stuff, Brian Tracy, I know is a guy that me and you really follow a lot.
Definitely.
And everyone needs to follow Brian Tracy. And he's got a lot of my favorite videos, but one of them is before you go to sleep and when you wake up, repeat to yourself, I do it now, I do it now, I do it now, I do it now, I do it now. Today I was on the phone with someone and I said, okay, there's this person, they can help you with this. And he said, okay, send me his number. I said, I already did. He said, you sent it? I said, yeah, I sent it. So just call him when I hang up. Just do it now. What else are you going to do?
I think you had texted me your coffee order today.
Before we hung up. Just do it now. Do it now.
You hadn't even asked me to stop and get coffee yet, but I had your coffee order.
I knew you'd like it.
Right.
Shout out Ahmed Nimi. They call that the Mike Nimi. If you ever go to Bakri Coffee, go get the Mike Nimi. Just tell them they sent it. It's really good.
Will do.
Stir it with the cinnamon. Right. But anyways, do it now. That is the key. Do it now. Do it now. I'll do it later. Why? What do you have to do that's more important? The guy needs to talk to someone about this. Send it now. What are you waiting for? I don't get it.
Paul Gunther, our guy.
Paul
Woods, baby. He says, if you can do it in 10 minutes, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. If it takes 10 minutes to do it, just do it. I mean, think about how many of your action items only take 10 minutes?
Most of them.
Most of them.
But the thing is, just do it.
Right.
Just do it.
Brian Tracy has a book called Eat That Frog, which is take your biggest task of the day and just start with it, knock it out. The satisfaction that you're going to get from that is going to flow right into your minor tasks. I mean, and when you stick to that model, think about how much extra time you have.
A lot.
I remember I was just struggling leaving the office before 7 o'clock. And, I got introduced to Brian Tracy. I did my list, every day, write down my tasks, what I have to do, knock them out. And I promise you, I was saving hours a day.
Hours. A lot of mental stress, too.
Oh, yeah.
Writing things down, even if you don't get 10 out of the, let's say you have 25 things, you do 17. The different ones, do them for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Just write them down.
Exactly.
You start off and you go to the office, it's on your desk.
And it sounds so simple, right? But I challenge anybody watching this. Take a yellow legal pad and a pen and write down every single thing you have to do and stay consistent with it. Watch how your life improves. But, it's not easy to stay consistent.
It's not. It's all, you got to remind yourself. You got to have someone hold you accountable. You need a coach.
Yeah.
But one thing I've been doing is, so I do that in the morning and I write it down.
Right.
And then I kind of get a little sloppy with it throughout the day. So what I've been doing as of this week, I don't leave anywhere without my notepad. and as something comes up, I write it down right away. So I had a paper the other day, and I was showing my wife Reem, and I had like 40 things crossed out. You gotta just go on top of, for sure, when you sit down in the morning, bite the frog, you say the number one thing, I say the top 3 things, the most 3 important things, circle them or label them 1, 2, 3. But then throughout the day, write on your taxes what you're going to forget.
Right.
You're going to forget. Especially
It's inevitable.
your phone rings, you're scrolling on social media. It's inevitable.
Right. I mean, think about it. A client calls you and is asking for one thing. While that client is on the phone with you, you get that other line, that call that you've been waiting all week for. And, it's a juggle. And sometimes if you're not, overly prepared, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it.
Of course.
Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
Everyone makes mistakes. There's only so much you could do.
Just not your lawyer, though.
Yeah, no, not your lawyer.
Right.
You can't make mistakes,
Right.
especially with the stuff you're dealing with.
Right.
Speaking of the stuff you deal with, what cases can you share, or stories, to give people some insight? Because in the day and age of social media and reality TV, we always want to get in the mind of someone who's successful like yourself. I know you do criminal and you do immigration. Can you maybe share a story of one of them or both?
Yeah, so I'm very big on confidentiality.
Yes.
I
Don't break confidentiality.
No, I wasn't planning on it. I'll never be the lawyer who is taking a picture with his client waving around the dismissal.
Even though I tell you, if you had a successful day, talk about it. People want to know, and which I respect you for that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, I'm not going to come up and exploit my clients.
Yeah, for sure.
I just don't think it's a clout thing, and that's my thing. It's just never been a clout chaser in my life.
Yeah.
This is my work. Is what
Without
I take pride in.
without clousing, without chasing, whatever.
Right.
What can you share with us?
So I had a couple cases that really resonate with me, and I'm not going to share much about it, but what I can tell you is, there was a young man who had a scholarship, a full ride scholarship, and who ended up in some trouble. And you can't resolve certain cases like this in the stereotypical way they get resolved, because the consequences for this gentleman would have been much more severe. So, this is negotiation after negotiation after, bringing the person's teacher to court, bringing their parents to court, having joint meetings with, the government, getting to a point where, everybody understands that, hey, maybe you made a mistake, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should have to suffer the consequences that typically come with this mistake, because in your specific situation, those consequences are really, really severe. And we were able to successfully negotiate, a dismissal of something that could really have affected this person.
That's amazing.
Oh my God, it's one of the best feelings ever.
What was going through your head when you were doing all of this for this individual?
So, this was a case where we were a hair away from trial, because we weren't getting what we wanted. And it was a case where it was triable, but it wasn't a guarantee. And me, I love trying cases.
Yeah.
But it's not your life.
But sometimes you gotta see, reflecting. If this happens, then that happens. If this happens, that happens. You gotta weigh your options.
Think about it. When you're the lawyer and you go to court with somebody, you go to court, you go to your next hearing, you go home. That's your day. That court hearing you're in with your client, that's all they've been thinking about before. That's all they're going to be thinking about after. They're going to be overanalyzing every word that was said, every situation.
100%.
So, it's really on you to be an attorney, a counselor, and most importantly, you got to deliver. I could tell you that, whenever I have these cases, when we get the result we want, it's like getting your hand raised at the end of a wrestling match. It's probably the best feeling ever. And I wrestled, so I can tell you that's probably.
What was your record your senior year?
I was 39-2.
9-2. Rumor has it the 2 losses you had, you slipped. Huh? Yeah, one of them at least.
Right, at least one of them.
At least one of them.
But no, I mean, and I know it's so crazy. Just the fact that we played these sports and engaged in these sports, you take that and you put it into your work. Like, I was a captain of every sport I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Almost every year, I think.
Yeah.
I think every year.
Uh-huh.
And that type of leadership, and you were too, that type of leadership, we brought it right to our businesses.
We did.
And right to our cases.
We did.
And right to the judges, and
100%.
right to the prosecutors, and right to our other, I've had a ton of cases where, I had cases where somebody could have been deported. And if we didn't, get in there and resolved the case in a way that this person wasn't going to be deported, it would have been really, really bad. I don't want to tell you too much, but people don't understand the consequences of certain things. They just don't. And honestly, it's not fair. There are some cases where they're going to offer you probation, but that probation is going to result in you getting deported.
Which just changes your
right,
life.
I mean, think about it. If I'm a prosecutor or a judge and I'm willing to give you community service, costs and fines, classes for the offense that you committed, can we agree that you probably shouldn't be deported? If we're not talking about essentially, if you didn't really hurt somebody, if you didn't kill somebody, if you didn't do, an egregious act, should you have to suffer that consequence? Is there something else we can do? Can we resolve this a different way? Can we maybe put you in a position where, we educate you and give you some resources to make sure you don't end up in the situation again? That happens so much, man. And, another really good feeling is being a defense attorney, you have a lot of people who, have substance abuse issues. And when you get those people the help that they need, there's certain programs, there's different classes, there's different sponsors, and they come, and they beat it. Oh my God, that's the best feeling. I've had so many cases where, we've had a situation where this person's addicted to a substance, and it really is a disease. It really, really is a disease. And, courts I think now are getting into the trend of treating it as such, but a lot of courts aren't.
Yeah.
And, these things are violations. These things put you in jail.
For sure.
And
it takes someone to care like you do.
And more, and fight.
Fight.
And you got to fight too.
There's something. So in both of the examples that you gave, it's like what I was telling, I think Adam and Hassan the other day on my team. I was telling them, like, you have to get creative. Whether you're negotiating with a judge, a prosecutor, another agent, you're negotiating with the seller, a buyer, whatever the case is, you got to get creative to make it a win-win and let them understand where you're coming from. So I used an example as my son the other day, and he likes to go in this drawer and take all of Reem's pens out in her office and take them and throw them and put them in his mouth, and it's a disaster. So I stood in front of him, and I just stood there. I think my legs were like a little open, and he didn't just stop and turn around. He tried to go between my legs. Then he tried to go under. Then he tried to go to the other side. Then he tried to push me. You got to get creative. You got to find a way to make it happen. And he wasn't going to stop. And my son's 1 year old.
Right.
And it makes you think like be like a baby. Like be like a little kid. There was nothing that was going to stop him from getting to the drawer. He was going to go under, over. He was going to cry and scream till I just gave up. He wanted to get in the drawer. And it's funny, but it's really human nature. You got to put that mindset, whether it's a deal, whether it's, like, think about it. This guy could have went to jail for a long time. He could have got deported, whatever the case may be. He could have this guy could have been, in trouble for this. But, you got creative. We could do this. We could do that. We could do that. With every hurdle, there's a solution.
I agree.
People use the word problems. I mean, if it's the first time I talk to you, some lady today told me, we have a problem. I said, please don't say that. You have a challenge.
Right.
So what's the challenge? Challenges are exciting. Problems are hard. Dave Abdullah taught me that. I said, well, please don't use the word problem. He said, okay, here's the challenge. I said, okay, sure, we'll fix it. You're looking for the solution when you say challenge. You say problem, you just get upset. And
how many challenges you say that you deal with on a daily basis?
I don't even count. I just look at it as a lot.
It's work.
A lot. It's just work. I don't like to use the word problem unless I put solver right away. I'm a problem solver. We put out fires and solve problems for a living. We communicate and put out, and that's it. We're communicators, sometimes negotiators. We're problem solvers.
Ain't that the truth?
Like we have a deal right now where we have one deal, the guy's selling, and based on him selling, he's buying. We're going to do it the same day. Both are large transactions, and there's a title challenge on the first deal. And people are calling me frantically. My client does not even know. And he's not going to know because we're going to handle it. And they're telling me, okay, but there's a lien on here. And I said, yeah, but there's a lien from this year, 2008, I think. It sold in 2011. So you have one title search that went over it.
Right.
Then they got title insurance again in 2011. So for a mortgage and for a closing, two separate transactions. So that couldn't have happened if there was still a loan. It sounds a little confusing, but basically, we'll figure it out. It's all good.
And I'm sure you did.
Not yet, but we will. I said, hey, look, we're going to close on the 17th. So just do me a favor. Let's just handle it by the 17th. And that's it. There's no other option.
And you know what? I promise you, but and I want to say this, but I know we don't jinx anything, but by the time this episode is live, that deal's closed.
It won't be closed, but we're going to find out what happened with this loan or something. We're going to figure it out.
You always do.
You know, you have to. And if you don't have it figured out, just figure it out.
You have to. Man, I've heard you on the phone so many different times, pretty much ordering people to figure it out.
Because growing up, my Uncle Mike used to tell me, Mike Chief, he said, just figure it out. But can you just figure it out? Figure it out. Just figure it out. That's it. Right. You know what I mean? Like, let's say I called my buyer, and I told him the person you bought the home from was the person he bought it from had a lien. The lien's still there, but there's no way it really is still there because he's never made a payment on it. But it's just a waste of time. Like, what's he gonna think to me? Figure it out.
Right.
So I'm not
even
going
to hear about this.
Yeah, like it's not his business.
Right.
Just figure it out. You hired me to I hired you to figure it out.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Hey, if something ever happens and I say, hey, bro, I'm in jail. I hope you figure it out.
I would figure it out.
You know, that's it.
I wouldn't even ask questions.
That's
just
it.
figure it out. That's what we do.
100%.
Put out fires and keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Very important. Very important.
And all while delivering, customer service.
That's it.
Really.
100%.
Being positive in tough situations. I mean, at what point in your career did you realize that, being this positive, empathetic, outgoing person is the answer?
I think growing up in the customer service business, like at Lava, that you have to be empathetic and you have to be, you have to be good with customer service. But my first trip to Boston, when I went to visit Bob Bolin, they based their business on a 4 Seasons customer service experience. So I walked in, and the first thing they asked me, would you like a coffee? I said, yes, black. They said, no cream, no sugar? I said, no, black. And they left, and he said, if they're worth anything, before you ask tomorrow morning, you'll have 2 cups of coffee on your desk. And I said, yeah, that's a cool idea. I had 3. I had 3 cups of coffee on the people kept walking in, handing me coffee. So there's a difference between being empathetic and having good customer service and going so above and beyond. It's like Unreal Hospitality, which is a book on that, for the #1 restaurant in America. Sold a few years ago for $20 million, business only. It's called Unrealistic Hospitality. And it shows you like the little things to do. So sure, you can go above and beyond, or you could just be so ridiculous that you remember people's names, birthdays. If they tell you like something, you remember. If they say their son's going to college, you don't see him for 3 years, you remember, because you genuinely care about people.
Right.
That's the key. That's the key to good customer service. You have to genuinely care. You can't be, like a bullshitter, for lack of better words.
Right.
You have to genuinely care.
And eventually they peep it, right?
100%. You can tell it. Like 100%. You can tell.
And you know when someone's genuine. You know when someone genuinely cares about you or what you're saying or what you're doing.
100%. I wanted to go back to some of our first memories. One of my first memories of you was we're playing football together. My dad was the coach, and you said, and you throughout high school you were about twice as athletic as anybody on the team, but in 7th grade you weren't. No. You didn't hit your growth spurt yet. I was
grumpy.
And you had all heart.
I was all heart.
And my dad used to say,
he called me Rudy.
So you said, hey, Coach Eddie, I want to be a captain. I want to be a captain. And my dad started laughing. He said, I love this guy, Rudy. Your name is Raed. We're going to call you Rudy. We're going to call you Rudy, because Rudy from the Notre Dame movie, it's one of our favorite movies. He said, we're going to call you Rudy. And it was one of my first memories of you. And you lined up in Oklahoma, and, you guys went at it. And my dad laughed so hard. He said, this guy's got all heart. He's Rudy. So how important do you think sports are? And what do you think it, what do you implement from sports now that you got playing sports?
Great question. Everything. I think sports are probably the single most important thing that you can do for children when they're young. It's funny, we were actually a part of this discussion recently with Hadi B, right? And he was saying, just talking about me and for example, Mike Ossie, because, he went the work in high school route
Yeah.
and I went the, sports only route. And I think both are respectable, but there's certain things I think that sports teach you that work just can't, especially when you're at that age. Like the importance of the camaraderie
Yeah.
is different, right? It's different than you and your coworkers versus you and your teammates. The discipline, man, the ability, and I always talk about this, but being on a losing team was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Yeah.
Being the captain of a losing team
Yeah.
was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Why?
Because it means that you have to perform and lead and guide when shit hits the fan. When all else fails, you have to be the person who's picking people up. You know how easy it is to blame the person next to you for doing something wrong, or to, throw a tantrum or have a fit. But I was never able to do that. I was never able to give in to that urge. I always had to, be positive, stay up, let the coach yell at everybody, and then, I pick them back up. And that's just kind of how we were raised, just been playing sports. If somebody loses a tough match, you got to be there for them, or you got to win your match to make up for it. That sort of pressure, good pressure that sports teaches you when you're young, I think I relate that. For example, let's say we have a hearing. Let's say, the judge didn't rule in our favor at that hearing. Oh, you better believe we're coming with everything in the kitchen sink at the next hearing. Deep with everything I got, because that's what I'm used to. If we lose on Friday, you remember I'm going for a jog on Saturday.
Yeah.
And we're back to it and we're going hard. And I think both of us really. I think you relay that into your business too, just with the waking up early.
Yeah.
Remember how many miles we used to have? We were waking up at 7 a.m.?
7 a.m. in the summer.
We were 15, 16.
Yeah.
Running a mile, the first thing to start our day.
It teaches you a lot. I've never been able to run a mile and be happy ever. I've been on earth for 30 years. So I couldn't believe it every time. Like I'm running, I can't believe it. 7 in the morning.
Right.
Mike Ossie's sleeping in. This is unreal.
He's going to wake up and enjoy some
He's
soy.
going to wake up on that porch on Kingsbury.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. I thought I was being punked.
Right.
But losing is so awesome. It really is, especially you work all summer, you work all week, you game plan, then you lose. Then you fast forward 15 years and I'm on the way to a meeting an hour away at 9 p.m. And in my mind, I was watching a video and there's a motivational speaker and he was saying, we may be even, but when it comes to something going wrong, I'm going to stay here and most people will go down. And that's a good way to think about it because we've been working on this deal for 7 months. It's almost a $2 million deal. And I'm working with another agent and this is his second deal, I think. Amazing person. But you could tell he's really, and we were all like that.
Right.
But,
there's nothing wrong with that.
But you could tell he's really getting his demeanor going down about it. And he's upset. And I told him, stop. And it went in my head like, when everything goes wrong, you have to just be fine.
Gotcha.
You have to, that's the only way to close the deal. That's the only way to save the case. That's the only way to alter, in your case, someone's life. Right. You have to have the mindset of what could I do to solve this situation?
The ultimate measure of a man.
What's the quote?
The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands during moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands during times of challenge and controversy.
100%. And that's when you got to just sit back, reflect. Well, you lost, right? We lost these games. You lost this deal. Did something, did your life change? The 10-10-10 rule, is it going to affect you in 10 years? Not at all.
No.
Not at all. So it's not the end of the world. And once you detach from an outcome like that, did I do my best? To save this deal at 9 p.m., I drove an hour. Did I do my best? Yes. Am I going to stay calm throughout the duration of whether it be negotiating, whatever? Yes. I'm going to stay calm.
And you've been there before.
We've been there before,
right?
100%.
That's the key. We've lost. We've been under that pressure.
It's okay.
Right? We've been there. We know how it feels.
Yeah.
Now it's, what do I got to do to not end up in that situation? But if I do, I'll bounce back. I'll do what I have to do and we'll get through it.
100%.
But you got to go through that. And if you've never been through that, that's how people crash and burn.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people in law school I knew that were, at the top of their class and in the beginning and, raising their hands right away, they crash and burn. If you're not used to, I guess, pressure, or if you don't know what to do and, when it hits the fan, that's what happens is you crash and burn. But if you've been through it before, you're able to guide your ship and get back to where you need to be,
You got to stay cool. You got to stay cool.
Not easy.
It's not something happens in law school, something happens in a case, something happens in a deal. You just got to relax. You got to relax. You got to be like Tom Brady.
Yeah, but see, sometimes it's hard. Like, so right now I'm representing one of the protesters with a group of different attorneys from our community, awesome attorneys from our community. And, the attorney general's charging college students in protest.
What are they charging them with?
Most of it, you'll see a lot of trespassing and you'll see a lot of like resisting arrest.
Yeah.
But it's a joke. I mean, I think the first time in history, the University of Michigan's called the police against their own students.
Really? First time in
history. You know
history.
how many different protests, have happened there. Don't quote me 100%, because I haven't, combed through everything.
But it's laughable.
I mean, have you ever heard of the police being called to, any of these universities for protesters if it didn't have to do with Palestine?
Peaceful protests? Have I ever heard of any peaceful protest? No.
No.
I haven't.
You won't. And, and that's the thing is usually these protests are peaceful until, you sick the police on college students.
Right.
Until you do these things. Yeah. I never heard of any sort of assault, any sort of, abuse, any sort of violence towards anybody in these protests. I think this is a situation where cops came in and they escalated.
So you said there's multiple attorneys representing these protesters?
Definitely.
Really?
Yeah, and they're from our community, and we'll shout them out. I know at least on the felonies, Mark Haydar, Amir Makhlid, Jamil Kuja. I talked to Ali Hamoud today. I think he's on one of the misdemeanor cases. I believe the Raed Elder is also on one of the misdemeanor cases. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. I know that there's at least a couple more.
That goes to show that, people come to this community and they do their rounds and they do these tours and they ask for support and ask for donations, and to do something egregious like charging our brothers, sisters, our kids, our sons and daughters for protesting, it doesn't work. Like you just named like 6, 7 prominent lawyers.
Yeah.
Maybe 100 years ago, you can come to a predominantly Arab American community and it'll work. But at the end of the day, like times have changed and we're not like second-class citizens.
No, you're not about to play with us.
No, we're not like second-class citizens. We're not uneducated. We're not illiterate. We're doctors. We're lawyers. We're prominent business people, accountants, firefighters, teachers. We've been around, and we're just as American as anybody else.
Right, and we're armed with the education
100%.
To fight back properly. And when I say education, it doesn't mean from, specifically university, but we know how to talk to people.
Yeah.
We know how to get into these rooms. And we hope that, with all of this advocacy that we're doing, that this falls on the right ears, that hopefully one day someone's going to be in a position to make a change.
Yeah.
And that, these actions, what we're doing, hopefully they hear us.
They do, because the people who came before us and first came to this country, like for example, Hajj Ali Faiz was on a different podcast, one of the greatest podcasts I've ever seen. Did you watch it?
No.
It is unbelievable. You have to watch it tonight. And when you watch it, you'll realize that someone who came here at 15 years old, on a boat, by himself, no parents, made a life for himself, he is the reason why 70 years later, 80 years later, there's 7 lawyers representing people at a protest. Right. And then in another 80 years, they're going to say because of those 8, 10 lawyers, someone could do something. Right. Maybe run for governor, maybe run for president. Right. So, out of all your cases, I would imagine that's probably your favorite case. Or one of them. You didn't got to pick. So
right.
We don't want to discriminate against other cases. No. But the fact that you get to do that is really amazing.
It is amazing, but I'm also pissed off, and I think we're all a little pissed off. Like, it's like, what do you want us to do? Like, we can't advocate for our people in any way without being charged, without being racially targeted, without, a senator accusing, us of different supporting different groups on the, on the congressional floor. You don't really see this with other missions. You don't really see this with other groups of people. And it's unfortunate. But, they got the wrong ones now. Yeah. To be honest with you, we're here. We're ready to fight. And we're ready to lean on our mentors and lean with our mentees and get our community together and do what we can for this cause.
100%.
And it's a blessing to be a part of it.
100%. And it'll go down as something that people will look back at. And what an admirational thing you guys are doing. It really is.
Yeah. I hope so, but it's not about that. It's more so I think about we got to wake the world up. We need allies in this mission. Free Palestine till it's backwards. These people are being bombed and killed. And then, look at Lebanon.
It's crazy.
Horrible, man.
So I sat with a very good friend of mine who, in a lot of things, the egregious things, sometimes you don't sleep when you see them and you think of your kids, and it's just, it's unbelievable. And a very good friend of mine, I think he lives an hour from Dearborn. And so his social media feed is different than ours.
Of course.
Because he doesn't see what we see.
Right.
These graphic images. And it's...
Right.
And I showed it to him. And because he asked me my opinion. And I didn't give him an opinion. I told him, what's your opinion? And he almost started crying. And he said, how can someone think this is okay? And I said, I don't know.
It's because of who the victims are, man.
I don't know.
It's because of who the victims are.
I don't know how someone... And I think the tides are changing. The tides are changing.
I think so, too.
The tides are changing to where you can't... When innocent people die, it is... You can see it on social media. There's only so much you could block. We see everything. We see the good. We see the bad. We see the ugly. We see the pretty. We see everything. Social media, it travels quick. Really quick. So...
No, and what's so crazy with social media, it really affects, your cases too. It just in criminal cases. You know how hard it is to avoid an iPhone or avoid a Ring camera or a green light gas station, or a Tesla with video recording. I mean, we're being recorded more times than we know.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah.
You don't realize it, but we're in a different world now with the social media, with these, and there's a lot of pros. Like, without TikTok and without all this that's been going on, do you think we'd know what's going on in Palestine?
No.
Not to this extent.
No.
No way.
And it makes you think, what has the world been missing? What has the world not seen in the past 80, whatever, how many years? Right. What if this is unbelievable? Right. And I think...
Or has it always been that way? And now it's just on the news.
No, now you see it.
Right.
Now you see it, which it's crazy. But thank you for what you're doing. Seriously.
Yeah. We, we're all one community, and we're going to get this done for our people, man.
100%.
That's what we do.
To end, I want to know, what advice or words of wisdom do you have for people, whether it be in business, whether it be to being a good person, whether it's to being a student? What advice do you have for the people?
Find you a Nick J. No, in all seriousness, find you a group of people, like-minded individuals, that you can be open and honest with and share your goals with. And for the love of God, write it down.
Write it down.
I promise you.
We might have to change this podcast to write it down.
We might have
to. Write
it
down.
I like that. But realistically, whatever your goals are, I promise you, just write them down. Come back and watch this video a year later. I bet you those goals are accomplished. So that's what I'd like to leave you guys with.
That's great advice. So we have the last two podcasts. We got a Division I basketball coach who wrote things down and his life changed. And we have a prominent lawyer who writes things down and he's not only, both of you guys, not only your lives change, you're changing lives by writing things down. Because what you want to accomplish is both self-serving and selfless at the same time. So when you write things down, you can accomplish whatever you want.
Let's write it down, baby.
Write it down. Ro, thank you. Appreciate you. Oh, man. Thank you for tuning in to episode 9 of the Realtors Roundtable. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like it, at least subscribe. Thank you.